Hi everyone, this video, it's completely optional. And it's not really related to any of the reading that we've done. I think I'd mentioned, one of the students emailed me, said, hey, you mentioned in a video something about zero-sum games and non-zero-sum games. Can we have a quick video about it? And I was going to attach it to my wrap-up video, but I'd forgotten to do that, so I'm doing that now in a smaller video. Hopefully it's smaller anyway. I can get quite into this if I'm not careful, so let's see what happens. So this is zero-sum games and non-zero-sum games. Let's have a look. I want to share my screen and I want to share the whiteboard. Okay, so the first thing to sort of think about is zero-sum. Where does zero-sum come from? The idea is if I gain one, right, then you have to lose one, and then that equals zero, right? It's a zero-sum game. If one of us gains, you know, similarly, right, if I gain a half, right, 0.5, then you automatically lose 0.5, right? So it's, again, a zero-sum game. Whatever I gain, you lose by the same amount, right? So think of some applications for international relations. Zero-sum game, the idea behind zero-sum game was very much what was at least for realists, was seen as the case during the Cold War. Right? Any gain for the Soviet Union was automatically a loss for the United States. If the Soviet Union gains Afghanistan, the United States loses Afghanistan. Right? There's no extra, we'll talk about the sort of extra, but there's nothing extra. Either I have it or you have it. And if I don't have it, then you have it. And if I take it, then that means I'm taking it from you and you no longer have it. That's all zero-sum, that's the zero-sum part of it. Zero-sum games. So this is very much associated with realism. It's associated with an idea called relative gains, right? So every game, I'm writing now with this weird pen thing. Relative, like, you know, your mother or your father. Relative gains. And the idea is if the Soviet Union gains, this is slightly different, but it's related, right? If the Soviet Union gains 6 and the United States gains 4, right? We've both gained, right? So if you were a liberal, right, you might talk more in terms of absolute gains. So you'll say, well, both sides have gained absolutely there, right? And that gain might be territory, right? It might be the economy, it might be some sort of a trade deal that you're doing where one gains 6 and one gains 4. And a liberal will say, look, this is mutually beneficial. We've both gained, right? The United States gained let's say $4 billion or 4, I don't know, hectares of land or something, right? And the Soviet Union gained 6. So, okay, it's a win-win situation, right? We'll talk about win-win. Win-win is non-zero sum, right? This sort of win-win here, where there's a Venn diagram and where we both get what we want here. That's non-zero sum. Non-zero. There's some sort of a crossover. We came up with this deal that saw the United States gain 4 and the Soviet Union gained 6. The realists, so that's absolute gains. Realists say, look at the relative gains. The Soviet Union are gaining on us there. They got 2 more than we did. So that was a bad deal. Whatever it was, that was a bad decision to make. Right? So notice those are 2 ways to look at things. One is more associated with realism, the relative gains. The absolute gains is more associated with liberalism. You know, and I'll show you a couple of other things. So this is a non-zero sum game where there's some overlap where we can both win. Zero sum, right? You might draw a Venn diagram for zero sum where either, for me, the outcome is either a +1 or a -1. There's no, either I've gained or you've lost, or you've lost and I gain. Every gain for you is a loss for me. Every gain for me is a loss for you. That's zero sum games, right, which is connected with this relative gain. And non-zero sum is oftentimes connected with these absolute gains. Okay, this is zero sum as well. All right, so that's the basic idea of it. And it is sort of an attitude. It's a way of analyzing the world. It's a way of analyzing individual deals. So think of the Paris Climate Accord, right, that the United States withdrew from. Right, one of the features of the Paris Climate Accord was that states who are less developed are given sort of Well, this actually was a feature of earlier climate change agreements. The Paris Treaty kind of did away with this a little bit, but in earlier iterations of international agreements on climate change, it was that less well-developed countries who are earlier on in the stages of development towards a United States-style service economy, states that were more heavily industrialized based economies, they were given a greater scope for pollution, right, than the United States. And the idea is, right, that hey, we all get absolute gains from here. Sure, the Chinese are allowed to pollute more than the Americans, and yeah, that might not seem fair, but the benefit of that is that the United States gets a benefit of that too, right? It's not that every cubic foot of carbon dioxide that the Chinese get to produce that the United States don't get to produce. The sort of advocates of the agreement would say it's not a loss for the United States. Actually, it's a gain for the United States because the United States is still on the same planet, right? So it's an absolute gain. We'll have a reduction. There'll be more of a reduction in the United States than in China, but we shouldn't think of those in terms of relative gains. Hey, China gets to pollute more than we do. It's more absolute gains that there's less pollution. Right? There's less pollution. They're going to reduce theirs by 2. We're going to reduce ours by 6. And that's a reduction of 8 in the world. So that's great. That everybody benefits from that. That's the sort of rationale behind that approach to climate change. But of course, the opponents would say, look, they would focus on relative gains and say, look, China is making much smaller reductions than the United States is having to make under this treaty. Of course, the Paris Climate Accord that gets rid of all. Each country sets its own limits now, I think, right? According to the Paris Climate Change Treaty, which we also obviously left. So, but still, the same thing was presumed to happen, right? That China will reduce theirs, will set their goal much higher than the United States will set it, right? Will be much more lax on the pollution than the United States will be, and so if we look at it in terms of relative gains, we see that China has a much more lax environmental record, and they're going to be able to attract polluting industries and export goods more to the world than the United States that's making a bigger cut in its carbon dioxide output or something, right? CO2 emissions. All right, so there's a bit of an example of it, and it's not that one of them is more true than the other, right? It's a preference thing. Right? It's how do you want to look at this, right? It's true both that overall pollution in the atmosphere will be reduced, and it is also true that China will be reducing their pollution much less than the United States has to reduce its pollution. And so there is both an absolute gains argument and a relative gains argument to that. It's just which do you prefer to focus on, right? Which do you think is the most valuable kind of a gain? Is it a relative gain and is it an absolute gain? And if you think relative gains, you're probably thinking in terms of this zero-sum mindset, which is a little bit more realist. And again, nothing wrong with that. It's one alternative. If you're thinking in terms of absolute gains, you're probably more on the liberal side of things, and you probably see the world as more non-zero sum. Right. One more thing on this, and then I'll talk a little bit about game theory. Just a very brief introduction on game theory. Clear all drawings. And again, don't worry too much about this. If you want to include it in your paper, that's great. If you don't, that's fine as well. Let me show you this one chart before I go on to a quick talk about games and game theory. Because we talked about zero sum and absolute gains and relative gains, non-zero sum and zero sum, but let's talk now a little bit about, I'm going to write China here and the US here. And let's say the US and China are doing a trade deal, right? This line here represents all of the possible points at which the maximum benefit is derived from this trade deal, okay? That's this line here. It's the maximum benefit all along this line. Any point on this line is an agreement that gives the maximum amount of benefit from this one particular trade deal. We'll call it trade deal. Trade deal. Okay, that's terrible writing. Trade deal A, we'll call it. No, we won't. Let's not do that because I'm going to do something in a second. All right. So we'll call this is one particular trade deal, and anywhere on this point, right, the US and China are going to negotiate, and what they want to do is they want to end up anywhere along, trying to draw like a dot there, but that's not worked very well. Yeah, there we go. Anywhere along this line would be good. I would maximize the benefit of this particular trade deal. Now, so that's the first thing to know, and that's already set for us, right? That's theoretically set. That's just the maximum, right? It's a theoretical maximum. Now, what we've got to do though is decide how much of it China gets and how much of it the United States gets, right? And this is a way to think about relative gains and absolute gains. So one point on this line is right up here. Right? This is one of the points on the line. It's right up here, and on this point, China gets everything, right? Because remember, this is an axis where, as it goes higher, right, it gets bigger, and same here. This is the x-axis as we go right, it gets bigger. Right? So at this level here, China's getting everything, and look, the United States. This is 0 down here. The United States is getting nothing. So this is a possible trade deal that could happen where China gets all the benefit and the United States gets 0 of the benefit. Right? Similarly, right, we could be down here where the United States gets all of the benefit and China doesn't get any of the benefit. The other things that are possible, and so we see anywhere along this line, right, here might be, right, China gets half the benefit and the United States gets half the benefit, right, half and half there. So that's something. Okay, actually, China's doing a little bit better there. Maybe we need to be a bit lower. But you see hopefully you see what I'm getting at. But there's other possible outcomes of this trade agreement, right? The United States and China could end up having an agreement that's here, right? And what's happened there is we have an agreement. Right, and the United States gets this much benefit, China gets this much benefit, so it looks like China's winning again there. But we've left all of this extra on the table, right, because we're not on the line now, right? So then, see, we've left all of this. China could have got all of that, and the United States could have got all of that extra. But we didn't because we reached this deal instead, this deal in here. And of course, every point within this, under this curve and on this curve, that's a possible agreement. It's a possible trade deal agreement. So let's do, it could be here as well. And again, we'd be losing out on there and on there. It could have been bigger on both sides. And so then the question is, oftentimes we think of ourselves, when we're going into a trade deal, we think of ourselves as probably inside this and trying to move it so it maximizes the benefit for both. But the question is a movement from here, let's see, is a movement from this one to this one, right? It's beneficial for the United States, but it's not beneficial for China, all right? So maybe China would say, well, no, there's no point. We don't get anything extra from this. We don't lose anything, but the United States gains something. So if you're a relative gains China, if you're China and you think in terms of relative gains, you say, this is good, right? We don't lose anything, and the Americans win something, and therefore we have increased trade, right? We've increased trade, we've increased the good in the world, the benefit in the world, the trade benefit by moving along here, right? What about this line? What about this agreement here, right? So if we move from, let me see if I can find some sort of an arrow. If we move from this one to this one, China's gained a bit, the United States has gained a bit. I think the United States has gained more than China there. Right? Does China do it? Right? Should China do that trade deal? They say, right, we've gained, the United States has gained more. So if your relative gains, then you say, no, we don't want, the United States is an enemy. They're getting more than we're getting. So yeah, even though we would benefit, we're going to give up that benefit that we could have got to stop the United States getting a bigger benefit, right? Or if you are in absolute gains, China, you say, yeah, we are gaining, they're gaining. It's a win-win situation, all right? So there's another sort of illustration of relative gains versus absolute gains, of sort of a theoretical construct of this Pareto system, Paretian system. There. Again, if you don't understand this, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about it. But if you don't understand it and you're not interested, there's no tests on this at all, and so just feel free to skip it. All right. This system works in international relations for negotiations, for trade deals, and for giving up sort of nuclear limitations of nuclear weapons, that sort of thing. Any kind of negotiation this works for. And it gives you that. Again, it illustrates the absolute versus relative gains. I now want to go on and just mention the prisoner's dilemma. I want to mention two games, right? Because we're talking about games, I guess. We haven't quite been talking about games yet, but we're just, it's in the same ballpark, so we're going to move there now. Take this away. Okay, what happens if I do that? Okay, then I'm back to me. Hello, everybody. And then I'm going to share the screen again, but I'm going to share this one, I think. Let's see. This is where I got that. Well, I was looking for it just to remind myself, but here's what I just drew, but maybe slightly better. And here's some exciting. Anyway, and this is also applied to something quite different, right? This is applied to social welfare instead. Let's have a look now. All right. What I'm looking for, I think I had something. I had the stag hunt, but I didn't like this, the Wikipedia page of it. Where did I have the prisoner's dilemma? Okay, this is the best prisoner's dilemma illustration I found. It's from Wikipedia. But it's printed in the Business Insider. Can I make this big? Here we go. All right, so I don't know if you've heard of this. This is the prisoner's dilemma. It's the oldest, I think, the most famous game that we use in social science generally. When I say we, I don't mean me. I'm not a big game theory person, but here it is. And the idea is this: two suspects have been caught by the police, and they've made a pact before they get caught not to rat on each other, which of course is the right thing for criminals to agree with one another. That seems very important to the criminal world, at least in all the TV shows I've seen. Right? You don't talk about each other. You don't turn each other in. All right. And then, of course, the police want you to turn each other in because then they have evidence to convict you. And so this is the dilemma. The dilemma is this. So think of yourselves as one of the prisoners, and you've made already a deal with your buddy that, look, I won't dob you in, you don't dob me in. Right? We've been arrested, but they have no evidence on us. Right? Actually, they have evidence of a lesser crime in this game. They have evidence of a lesser crime, but they don't have evidence of the big crime, right, that you've been committing. So they've got enough to convict you on that. And what they're going to do is the police are going to try and get you to rat on each other. And the way that they're going to do that is, so you're one of the prisoners, you have the deal, you're not going to rat. They said they wouldn't rat on you. Okay, now, here we are. We're in the police station. Let's say I'm the policeman, and I ask you, and I say to you, okay, we have this evidence against you of this lesser crime, and you're going to serve a year for that. Right? Even if you don't cooperate, we don't need your cooperation. We already have this evidence, and you're going to go down for a year. But they say, maybe it was the other guy, maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was your partner that did everything. And in fact, if you give us a statement to that effect that it was that tell you everything the other guy did, how he did it, and that it was his fault, then as a reward, you won't serve the 1 year that you would otherwise serve. Right? We'll give you, we'll let you go free. We won't prosecute you. Okay. And of course, you know that they're saying the same thing to your partner. So there's an incentive, right? You see, there's an incentive now for you to betray, right? To what we're calling here defect. This is defect and cooperate. This is not cooperate with the police. This is to cooperate with your partner, right? Who you've already agreed with. Right? Defect is not to cooperate with your partner, and to defect to cooperate with the police instead, right? To defect. B betrays A, or B stays silent. So we're going to use this matrix here, a pretty simple matrix. We're going to use it to decide what you should do in that situation. What's the best option? So let's say let you be A, right? So you're A, and if you stay silent, you cooperate with your friend, you stay silent, then either one of these two things is going to happen. Either you're both going to serve 1 year because you both cooperated, right? B stays silent, you stay silent, you serve 1 year on the lesser charge, and you're out, okay? Either you'll serve 1 year, or if you stay silent and your partner takes the deal from the police and makes the statement, now you're serving 3 years. He's pinned it all on you. You're serving 3 years, he's gone free. Good for B, not so good for A, right? Now we go, the next thing, so that was if you stay silent. If you decide to betray your friend and cooperate with the police, make the statement, now either you're going to go free because the other guy kept the deal, right? And he didn't say anything about you. You put it all on him. They had enough evidence to convict with your statement. He's gone down for 3 years. Or you both betray each other, you're going to both serve 2 years. Now this, notice it's not 3 years, and this is because you've admitted to the crime. The police say, look, if, well, you haven't admitted to the crime, you've admitted to the other guy committing the crime. Yeah, this is always slightly different depending on who's setting up the dilemma, but this is one of the options, right? If I guess it's less, maybe it's a lesser sentence because you both had a role in it, right? It wasn't all that guy, and that guy didn't force you to do it. You know, so you were guilty, but guilty of fewer steps or less guilty than you would have been if you'd have forced that other guy to go along with you, right? So you both get 2 years. So now, which one do you choose? And this is the problem in the first iteration of the game. The problem is, if you choose cooperate, you'll either serve 1 year or 3 years. If you defect, you'll either go free or you'll serve 2 years. And this always seems to be the better choice to betray your friend. And so this bottom quadrant here, this bottom right quadrant, is the one that is most likely, is the one that we should do, okay? We should betray our friend and they should betray us, and we should end up both serving 2 years. Right? The police win either way, right? The police always get somebody. So that's it. That's the prisoner's dilemma. Now you can apply the similar principles of this to things like a nuclear arms deal, right? And we can have cooperate and defect on that too. We could conclude the agreement. We're not going to test. We're going to do the nuclear test ban treaty, right? So we're going to all agree not to test our nuclear weapons on land or underground. Or under the sea even, perhaps. So we agree to that. Now that we've agreed to that, it's still in our best interests to defect because of the prisoner's dilemma. Either we could both cooperate, we could both adhere to the treaty, or one of us could adhere to it and the other one not, or we could both not adhere to it. And it ends up being the same, that the best option, if we take a prisoner's dilemma approach, the best option is always that you both defect. Because let's run it through with nuclear weapons. if we both cooperate, neither of us test the weapons, and so we keep the level of technology that we have now, right? Or I don't test my weapons, but you test your weapons secretly, if that's even possible now. You test yours secretly. Now your technology is advancing and mine's staying the same. That's a much worse position for me than if I defected, right? Let's say I defect and you defect. Now our technology increases and we come closer and closer to potential nuclear war. We also get, you know, and it's how many of the consequences you can factor in. Game theory makes it, makes it mathematical. It makes it sort of logical in terms of which choice to make, right? Based on possible gains and losses. Sometimes zero sum, sometimes not zero sum, depending on the game that we set up. But it's very difficult in a game to take into account all of the possible consequences, right? Which is why some people don't like game theory and some people do like game theory. All right, that's it. I've talked about non-zero sum and zero sum games. I've split them up into two sections, talking mostly about the sort of concept of zero sum and non-zero sum as it relates to relative and absolute gains. And then at the end, I've introduced a little bit of game theory in terms of the most basic and most well-known game, The Prisoner's Dilemma. Feel free, if you'd like to read more on your own about game theory. Ask me, I don't know a ton about it, to be honest with you. Ask other professors. I can put you in touch with professors who are much more interested in game theory. And if you're interested in this more, this is the starting point here. We've just had the starting point. So, all right, I'm going to end this short video here, and hope you enjoy it.